So Uday, last question. Um, you came here to help us figure out how worship can be embedded in the distributed church, whether it's a personal church, a house church, a correctional facility, small group of people that just want to be the church together. Um, what are your thoughts on that? How can we do that right here, right now?
Well, thank you, Vernon. I do believe the Lord has brought me here to continue to explore and to come alongside Northland in its existing working out of this whole idea of the church distributed.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. From an estuary cultures paradigm, this kind of meets the church distributed in a few different ways, and we are continuing to explore what those forms will actually look like.
Mm-hmm.
In principle, however, I think the whole idea of concurrence, the whole idea of empowering people where they are at, in terms of the tools for ethnography, which essentially means the tools for studying your context, and the tools for what does it take for me to be a personal church in this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
What are some tools that we can use to work out our creativity and our missional identity in these contexts? Yeah. That's one sense. That's one part of it. The other part of it is what we're looking at when it comes to covenant creative communities for mission. Now, those are creative hub communities essentially that we think are essential. So, between the personal churches that meet in homes and neighborhoods, and we have the large space churches, meeting here on a Sunday morning, the in between, I think what we're trying to do is create or lay the groundwork for the formation or the emergence of these creative hub communities, which are essentially missional discipleship spaces for everyone, to use their creativities and work with one another in hubs and clusters and form little movements that are project oriented, time sensitive, but are inherently and legitimate and authentic ways of being the church where you are. Yeah.
Well, it's so good, Uday, because a lot of people still are having a hard time getting their head around what the distributed church is. I mean, it's very much something that we're continuing to see fleshed out in many areas, not only worship, but in everything from pastoral care to benevolence to teaching to all of those things that we see as being part of the church, and the thing that's intrigued me in a significant way is your belief that people can be creative, even if they don't think they are creative.
Yes.
And so, what I hear you saying is that we're going to try to find ways to draw that out of people.
Exactly, exactly. So we are coming to the table with this whole understanding that the way in which we, the church, interpret what it means to be creative is radically different from the way the world does so. In the world's language, creativity may mean primarily innovation, coming up with something new, or a psychometric evaluation of human potential. Someone is like Einstein is more creative than the average Joe, so to speak. But in the context of who we are, as image bearers of the Creator God, I think we have the potential to really fully expand that to say all people, irrespective of age, gender, caste, ethnicity, are creative in the image of God. You know, and so really, you're absolutely right. We want to invite all people, everyone, to reimagining what it really means for us to fully be working out our creativities. Yeah.
Well, we will do some more conversation and maybe do some more little videos to tell people how we're doing along the way and update them on what we're learning. So last thing, Uday. So today I brought the coffee. you brought something that looks pretty interesting there with you. What do you have?
I did. As a matter of fact, I thought I needed to let you all into this story because, like I said, while we are here and we all talked a bit about us being here, I think there was a bigger plan and there was a bigger picture in some sense. So the story goes, a few years ago, I was invited in 2013 by the North American Institute for Indigenous Theological Studies, NATES, to present a paper on creativity. And at the end of those few days, the Nates presented me with this pipe, with this peace pipe, and it's basically a flute. And it is a Seminole Nation bamboo flute.
Wait a minute, hang on. Seminole Nation.
Yeah.
We know something about the Seminole Nation
We do.
right here.
We do.
We live in the midst of it. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And so it seems, just one of those things about, we talk about, God knowing what He's doing. And so we're certain that He's called us to learn how to play this and bring about His peace in the midst of the Seminole Nation and this place and time. So I need to learn how to play this with you, Vernon. Actually, I think that's the mandate that God has called me to come alongside and learn with you all how to do this. And one of the interesting facts that I read that probably need to be verified is that the Seminole Nation were one of the few nations who did not sign the peace treaty.
Well, Uday, that's just fascinating, and it just reminds me of the fact that none of us signed a peace treaty with God. Absolutely. That God Himself reconciled us to Himself while we were still sinners, and He, in fact, has made peace with us, so that we in turn can make peace with one another. Amen. And I love that. I love the fact that God has called us to do that together.
It's interesting, even as we talk about, this being a Seminole Nation, bamboo flute, one of the pictures that the Lord has given to us as a church, and to me in particular, something that I cling on to is that final picture where every nation, tribe, tongue, people are gathered before the throne singing one song before God. And I think that's what ultimately, if that's the final picture, then that's what we need to be embodying and doing in the here and now.
Amen.
I think that's why we're here.
Well, we'll be in that number together, and maybe a few of us will be playing the flute along with the singing. So, hey, we'll talk some more another time, and we'll keep this conversation going. Thank you.
That's great.
So much for today.
Thank you, Vernon.
Okay.